Welcome to Subitizing, the math superpower for early learners. This video is all about what subitizing is and how to teach it, Part A. Hi, I'm Dr. Marty Epstein. True confession, I'm kind of a math and learning geek who's pretty obsessed with how little kids learn math and what can go wrong. So I have lots of cool information to share. If this weird thing called subitizing is an early math superpower, well, what's subitizing? Subitizing involves instantly knowing how many are in a group without counting. For example, there are 3 squares in this group of squares, and we know that without having to count them. Why is the ability to subitize this group and perceive it as a group of 3 without counting such an early math superpower? Well, it's an early math superpower because mathematics is based on the idea of groups and using numbers to label the size of groups. And at its core, that's what subitizing is, recognizing a group and using a number to label that group size. Now, contrast that with simple counting. Think about what's really happening when we count like this. 1, 2, 3. Simple counting involves giving a name to an item in a given order. If that's all a child does, that child can easily think 3, for example, is the name of the item counted third, not the size of that group of 3. If that happens and doesn't get corrected, that child will not be able to understand mathematics. Because an item named 3, because we counted it third, plus an item named 1, because we counted it first, does not equal an item named 4 because we counted it fourth. That doesn't make any sense because that's simply not what numbers mean when we are using them to do math. So subitizing is really, really important to early math because if we start a child with subitizing, we are giving that child the foundational view of numbers that they will need to do math and to understand math. They'll need that understanding to understand what we do when we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. This is a really important idea, so I want to quickly summarize it. Subitizing, not simple rote counting, builds the view of numbers that math is based on, which is viewing numbers as telling us how many of something are in a group or a collection, or mathematicians would call it a set. To better understand and appreciate this super important early math superpower called subitizing, well, let's do some subitizing. I'll show you several groups of apples. Decide how many apples are in each group. Don't count. Remember, we're trying to subitize. You'll have less than a second for each group. Are you ready? Here we go. Remember, don't count. We're done. Some you probably knew instantly, others you probably added subgroups, and some you probably just couldn't tell. It turns out groups of 1, 2, and 3 are immediately subitizable. Without counting or doing any other mental gymnastics, our brains can recognize and differentiate groups of 1, 2, and 3, regardless of how items in a group are positioned. Maybe 4 also, but I found myself building up 4 by adding 2 groups of 2 together. For the record, these are the largest groups you just saw earlier, and it turns out groups of 5 or more are not instantly subitizable, unless we use other mental processes such as recognizing a previously learned pattern or identifying and mentally adding subgroups. If I had more time, I would have identified and added together smaller subgroups. But interestingly, I would have built up these larger groups from the very small groups of 1, 2, and 3 that I could instantly subitize. This subitizing experiment we just did shows how subitizing these very small groups of 1, 2, and 3 are especially important. They tap an innate perceptual ability we all have and are also the building blocks of subitizing larger groups. So it seems fair to conclude that if we want to help a child subitize, it makes sense to start here with these very small groups of 1, 2, and 3. Starting there means we don't start teaching subitizing by including groups that are larger than 3. That will only be confusing and frustrating if we do that really early on because the child simply can't subitize groups that size yet. Let's stop here and summarize. First, don't start early learners with counting when you're teaching them math. Start with subitizing. And start teaching subitizing with these very small groups we've talked about of 1, 2, and 3. That means avoid larger groups when you're teaching subitizing. Avoid them at first. If we do this, we can set early learners up for early math success by giving them the superpower of subitizing. In upcoming videos, I share the best ways based on reviewing lots and lots of research to teach subitizing and then to teach counting. So stay tuned. If you're looking for help with subitizing, I designed Very Early Math Set 1 to do just that. Then Very Early Math Set 2 shows you how to use a child's subitizing skill to teach how counting works to tell a group's size. Both subitizing and understanding how counting works to tell a group's size are monumentally important to a child's early math development. And not all approaches to teaching these critical math skills work equally well. Please share, like, and subscribe so lots of little kids can build a strong math foundation. Bye for now.